Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to people around the world. This is Martin Hubel, your host of the DB2Night show. And this is a big one today. This is number 233, which is not necessarily a special number, but it means we've done an awful lot of these shows through the years, haven't we? And we've got an entire panel of IBM special guests with us today. We've got Tanmay Sinha, Vin Agrawal, and George Baklarz, who you might remember from other shows. How are you all doing today, gentlemen?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, it's great to have you. We're in the business of promoting DB2 and promoting the safe use of DB2, as the old saying goes. And we're always tickled that IBM gives us the good support you do. So let me get through the standard stuff, and then I'll turn it over to you all to give us the information on containerization. I keep meaning to do more with this myself, so I'm looking forward to the show. As always, here's our social media page. We use a hashtag of DB2Night on Twitter. You can follow us with that. We have a LinkedIn group. It's kind of lightly used. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that. It was originally set up for suggestions, but people kind of got the idea of how we work, and also they just send us emails directly to DB2Night show hosts anyway, so we'll see about that. We also are now using YouTube for our replays, so if you don't want to download the show, you can watch it on there. And we're noticing that's the uptick on that has been going up. We're getting about 60 or 70 people per week reviewing the shows on YouTube. Here's our famous disclaimer, as you can't do a presentation without the lawyers being involved. And things are recorded. We respect trademarks and we're careful with them. And there is a recording later. We'll make that available. And guys, if you could please send me a copy of your slides, we'll also put that on the replay blog as well. We have the show available in Windows Media, MP4, and on YouTube. So here's our announcement of upcoming shows. We've got our show today. I meant to take that off the upcoming shows, but we can deal with that. I'm great. If I don't have a typo in this stuff, you know I'm not doing my job, because at least I attempted to do something to fix it. John Hornibrook is joining us next week for Query Optimization 101. As we move through the DB2 stuff, we get more and more advanced for the really senior people, and we get new people coming in, so we like to step back from time to time and start anew. Also on May the 7th, there's another slot there reserved that Holly and you folks might be able to use, and you'll be able to tell me shortly on whether or not there will be a reprise engagement on May the 7th. On the Z side, we have Java Performance Best Practices with Dave Belke in 2 weeks, April 23rd. I have a request into somebody at the IBM SVL to speak on that day. And we also then, on May 21st, have Steen Rasmussen from Broadcom speaking on implementing schema changes. There will be shows in June. I just haven't got around to booking them yet, so I didn't bother putting the dates on here. As always, DBI is the founding sponsor of the DB2Night show, and they encourage you to go look at their DB2 LUW performance suite. And there's a demo available online, and if you watch it all, you get a gift card. And our winners, I forgot to announce Brian Lauby last week. He won for the show a month ago, or 4 weeks ago, and Mike Brawweiler, Mainline, won last week. So we've got both of those names up there. Congratulations, and you've got a gift certificate coming to you shortly. Or actually, I know they've already been sent, so there. And our main sponsors of the show, yours truly and DBI. And the other things, these are important announcements. This week, North America springs forward onto daylight saving time, as we call it on this side of the pond. In Europe, they call it summertime. And summertime in Europe is March the 28th. So this gives us an interesting and awkward problem. For anybody in Europe, you will be seeing us, I believe, 1 hour earlier, even though even though your time has not yet changed, we have to change because we're in North America, and that's how we do things. If we didn't change, then we'd make other people over here unhappy. So that's the joy of time change in the world as we know it. And of course, as all the Canadians know, times are 1/2 hour different in the province of Newfoundland. Also, just for a bit of fun, March the 14th, as we say on this side, 3/14 is actually Pi Day. This is the official day for math enthusiasts, and because of being 3/14. So there you go. That's your useless piece of information for today. I found a really nice color graphic there on a website. I'll give them credit, and thanks for pointing that out. And I'm sure there will be an absolute instant during the day if you take pi beyond 2 digits of 1/4 to 1592, etc., etc., etc. You could say that moment flashed by when you were exactly at the pi time on the 14th of March. All right, now we're into our polls. So let me grab this and pull up my polling thing over here. I've got this marvelous polling tool. So we'll launch our first poll. We asked this question last week or a couple of shows ago, and just out of interest to see what people think of 2021 with all of the events we've had around the world dealing with COVID-19. And it's actually looking a little more positive this time. That's a good thing to see. And that's important. I can tell you from personal experience, there's an awful lot of people right now going, I've had enough already. As I've shared with people in the past, my hobby is being a musician in a number of musical groups, and we have not been able to meet since the quarantine first came into place a year ago. So we're actually, and we're likely not to get back together till late September, early October at the very earliest. So we'll say that's continuing improving, or awesome, depending on who you ask. Our next poll. What versions of DB2 are you currently running? And you get to select all that apply. We see that coming in. And please.
What's your guess, Martin? How many are going to be 10.1 or earlier?
You know, I was in one company going back only 3 or 4 years ago. They were still on 8.2.2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that kind of stuff happens, but a couple of them actually are based on packages. Like there was an accounting package that was popular called ACPAC.
Oh yeah.
And ACPAC ran on DB2 version 7. Another steel company in the northern part of Ontario was running mainframe DB2 version 7 because they didn't want to spend the money to upgrade their mainframe to 64-bit. So things can happen.
Yeah, really, their name didn't start with an A, did it? Yeah, whatever.
It used to in the old days. Now now it starts with an E and then goes on from there. But there's our result. We got more people very current on DB2 version 11 and 11.5. That's good news.
Excellent.
That's great news.
How many DB2 databases do you currently have in your company, including all various instances and databases that you have, that sort of thing? And this is always kind of a fun one. I was into an auto manufacturer just also in a town starting with A just outside of Toronto. And when I was up there 20 years ago, they had well over 100 different databases running. So let's have a look at this and we'll share that. And this is kind of what I expected. Most people are well up near 100, if not above, and over 1,000. 27% of our audience. Gosh golly, that's an awful lot of databases. Mm-hmm. And here's one I tried to put in to talk about containerization. So it's kind of pick one of this, but I tried to give an awful lot of different combinations. So people are going to have to read this, and some people have some cloud, some people are traditional only, some people might be going towards containerization. I just wanted to have a look at all that and see what people have.
Yeah, because that's sometimes confusing, right? Because when you see cloud-based implementation, that could have been just like an Amazon, a T8 microserver running DB2 in a Linux, right? As opposed to, quote, a containerized cloud.
Exactly. And I'm hoping people know enough about the what they have to give us an accurate thing on this. They'll know more at the end of it, and perhaps we'll be encouraging them to be more containerized. We'll close that off and share the results there. Over half are still traditional, and I fall into that category myself. Some cloud-based, and we have some people, nobody, just traditional and some container. So now we are, and we do have 12% that are doing all three. And
interesting. Yeah.
There's
still some companies that need to have everything on premise. They don't want it to go anywhere else.
There are reasons for that, like. Everybody's talking about going with packaged applications, and then I did some work with the Ontario Ministry of Health, and based on the legislation passed in Ontario, everything they do is supported by custom code, because there's no absolutely zero chance of them being ever able to buy a package just for the province of Ontario, because we're unique. And so people still writing Kix COBOL mainframe in that particular place. And that's the nature of the beast. It's great to visit Kingston. What a beautiful little city to visit. What a great place. I love Ontario. I should live here. Oh, I do. So we're not getting a lot of voting here today, but we'll share the results. But we've got a pretty nice sized audience today. And with the interest in the topic, I'm sure we'll have a lot of download replays. And there we have it. We have a big mix, mostly homegrown and only packaged applications. That's interesting. It's so low today. Okay, with that, I'm going to close that off. You should be seeing my Move Your Mouse screen. And I'm going to click through, and I'm going to turn over control to which one of you today?
To me.
To you. Okay, you're doing. Yes. You're the main.
Yes, I'm the slide person.
Oh, good for you. That's what I say when I play my trombone.
Thanks, Martin. Hey, by the way, I saw everybody on the call. You see, we've got an optimizer pitch coming up with John, and that's going to be fascinating, because isn't it interesting, in the day of ML optimizers, machine learning, and everything else, you still need somebody who understands how the optimizer works. So anyways, listen to John. It's going to be a great pitch.
Yes, always is.
Yeah, so anyways, thank you everybody for attending this session. We've got 3 speakers today, including myself, and we're going to take you through a journey of really containerization. So we're going to talk about Cloud Pak for Data and how DB2 fits in there, kind of give you the journey of how to get to that environment with a new product that we're calling DB2 Click-2-Containerize. And then finally give you some options if you want to have us manage DB2, and so options of what you can do with DB2 on cloud. So we're going to start off our session with Tanmay, who's going to take you through the journey of DB2 on Cloud Pak for Data and give you an overview of that technology. So Tanmay, you want to start it off?
Yeah. Thank you, George and Martin. I think those were some very interesting questions. So this is, for me, this is the first time being on the night show. So I appreciate the invite, Martin, to talk to you and everyone on the call about some of the new and exciting things that we have in store. So by the way of introduction, my name is Tanmay Sinha. I am part of the product management team for DB2. I've been in this role for now almost about 10 months, 8 to 10 months. It's hard to imagine. It's moved so quickly. I specifically lead product management for the DB2 portfolio here at IBM, both for our on-prem deployments on LUW as well as our cloud offerings that we have. So next slide, please. So now over the decades, DB2 has evolved to become a multimodal database that can serve a wide variety of use cases. Now, most common ones that we see remain a transactional system? Actually, that's a good question for the next time, Martin. Closely followed by some warehousing implementations and where they're using it to do some multi-dimensional analysis and even incorporating AI into building AI models based on that data. And then we introduced Graph in DB2 last year, which is supposed to GA later this year, where we're able to handle semantic queries such as your gremlin queries to traverse your existing database tables as nodes and edges on a graph. Now, we've made the same engine available on our cloud offerings as well, which Vin will go a lot more detail into. Next slide. Now, DB2 is the only major database on Red Hat Marketplace. Again, comparing it to Oracle's and Microsoft SQL servers of the world, we've built DB2 to take advantage of the Kubernetes framework, which allows you to automate a large majority of tasks over to the underlying Kubernetes. Now, most importantly, though, it makes it super easy for the customers, as you will see with tools like Click-2-Containerize, to move their deployment, so modernize their deployment to the infrastructure of their choice. And they can start with, even on-prem, they can start with modernizing on-prem, and then over time, if the desire is to move it on a more managed infrastructure, like AWS, IBM Cloud, Azure, that's something that they have the option to. So the next slide, please. Now, there's so much that customers can gain from modernizing onto the container platform. But the most obvious cost savings really come from the simplicity of instantiating these new databases. We're consistently seeing automatic provisioning in minutes. And in case where customers are using the new operator framework, which I'll just go into a little bit on the next slide, we're seeing even faster times that are quite fascinating. So we're really excited to have more people try it out and see how easy it is to get that going. Now, next slide, please. So how are we doing it? Well, the secret sauce is really using the operators. Now, before I talk about the DB2 operators specifically, I want to spend a few minutes explaining what the operators are with a simple analogy. Hopefully, some of you are familiar with it. If not, this would be a good refresher. So now people say that so much has changed in the iPhone over the years. They talk about the processor getting faster, the camera getting with more megapixels, the screen becoming bigger, so many different things, more memory, more RAM. That's a joke if you watch IT Crowd. You should look that up. Anyway, but I actually disagree. The biggest advantage or biggest advancement was actually, in my opinion, the App Store. If you think about it, go back 13 years and try to remember the first iPhone. There were no real apps other than what Apple provided you. No SDKs. What we had were basically glorified bookmarks. If you remember, if you tried to have an app at that time for the phone, it essentially was a bookmark that would take you into Safari, a specialized version of that web page. Fast forward to iOS 14, which was launched in 2020 last year. Thousands of new applications are being built every day. There is a rich and vibrant ecosystem with well-defined processes, packaging for supporting new applications. There is payment integrations. There are upgrade stories that you can upgrade, workflows that you can integrate into, integration into the content ecosystem that goes along with it. There's so much that surrounds this ecosystem now. And that's what makes the iPhone what it is today. Operators do the same for managing containers. Repeatability of installation and upgrade, health checks, over-the-air updates, the things that we take for granted on our phones today. The goal with operators is to have a lot of these capabilities be brought into the enterprise deployments in a way that hasn't been possible before. Next slide, please. So DB2 Operator launched in November and already supports seamless upgrades today, with plans to have a fully lifecycle support coming in 2021. I see this as a game changer, as this is how we're seeing some of the customers truly starting to recognize the operational efficiencies that we talk about, that we always sort of have positioned. Okay, if you move to containers, you're going to get cost savings, you're going to get operational efficiencies. This is, as I said, is sort of the secret sauce. This is what allows us and enables us to get there as far as the cost efficiencies go. As a matter of fact, you can actually try out the operator today on Red Hat Marketplace for free if you follow the link. So we are, again, as I said, the only major database on Red Hat Marketplace today. Our community edition is available. You can go ahead and set it up if you have an OpenShift instance running. All you need to do is pull down the operator, and you'll have a DB2 instance running within minutes. And we also have we essentially everything that you're running, everything that you would expect from our containerized DB2 is available in the same code base. Okay. Next slide. So this is my last slide. If I'm to pick the top 3 reasons for why you should consider choosing to deploy their next database workload in DB2, in Cloud Pak for Data, or in containers in general, it would be these. First is the unmatched operational efficiency. So we talked about this with the operator framework, because it takes the automation to the next level. It brings the automation on every level of database management tasks. There are so many things that are available to you as part of this that can be then that the Kubernetes framework is helping you take care of. So that's number one. We have our DMC capabilities now integrated with Cloud Pak for Data. I'm not sure if George will have it in the demo, but you can monitor and edit and make changes to your database, test your database from within this environment. We'll cover this in more detail when Vin talks about for the second point is around portability. Vin will talk about deployments and different options that are available to you. But the value proposition of not being tied to any hardware infrastructure remains unique among other vendors. If you try to have this running on AWS Redshift or anything like that, right? You are essentially tied to the infrastructure that that vendor is providing you. What we're saying is you choose who you want to have the database, who you want to have as an infrastructure provider, and that can even be your own boxes. Like there's nothing preventing you in our license, in the way we sell the software, that prevents you from running these things on premise. Of course, we have our own managed services, which we will talk about, but the standard deployment, the standard distribution of DB2 comes with this flexibility and portability. And the last thing, which I don't think we'll cover a lot in this session, maybe if there is interest, we can talk more about it one of the later talks, is these built-in integrations with other services on our Cloud Pak for Data platform. Now, that includes things like Watson Knowledge Catalog, which is our governance portfolio, governance catalog, Watson Studio, where you can have your notebooks to train your machine learning models, Cognos dashboards. So again, you can do your basic BI and advanced BI if you have Cognos Analytics. So the idea that DB2 is at the core of this data platform makes it extremely easy and seamless for the customer to expand into newer use cases using that database, and not just have applications, but also have data science being done on this without having to rely on external tools or other things. So Cloud Pack for Data, for example, would allow you to use your instance in DB2 and switch very quickly to have it called from your Jupyter notebook in data science, or build a catalog with data discovery on top of that data. So you have governance as part of it rather than as an afterthought. So I'll hand it off to I'll hand it off to Martin to take a few minutes to talk about DBI, and before we resume on our regular discussions on Click-2-Containerize and DB2 Cloud. So Martin, back to you.
All right, thanks so much. I'll just take back control here for a minute. And I need to show a video. Let's see if I can do this. And there it is. This is, you might have to adjust your sound, because that's how this thing rolls. But it should be playing about now. Okay, let me get back to showing my other screen here. There it is there. And back to you, George.
Thank you, Martin.
Thanks for that. Was nice. We've got a nice little bit now where they're not too long and very clear and straightforward. All right, we're seeing your screen. I am seeing your screen again, so you're good to go. I am also, excellent. I am watching the question queue, and to this point we've had no comments on content, but I'll break in as needed. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Martin. Before we switch over to my section, what Tanmay just presented is a real shift in how we're managing and using DB2 now in containerization. So the thing is, it's new for the DBAs out there, but there's a lot more opportunities now to expand your skills and the types of things you can do once you get DB2 on Cloud Pak for Data with all the additional stuff like governance, right? You've got the ability to do business intelligence, you know, all sorts of exploration of the data, virtualization, things that you may never been able to use before. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to expand their skills, but also make it easier to deploy and manage DB2s. So I'm going to take you on a journey now about with our technology, because I've talked about containerization. How do I get there? And I don't like using the word migration, because for many of you, you know that's it's evil, right? There's a lot of time and effort spent behind trying to migrate databases. So we were presented with a challenge that said, we've got these shiny new toys called Cloud Pak for Data, and we've got OpenShift. How do we get our customers into these environments as quickly and as efficiently and with the least amount of pain as possible? So out of that came a new product. It's called IBM DB2 Click-2-Containerize. So when you look at DB2, you've got a variety of deployment options still available. We talk about containerization, but we still have the bare metal installations, right? Whether that's on VMware or, you know, directly on a server up in an AWS instance running in one of their machines. We'll consider that a bare metal server. When we talk about containerization, that's something running either OpenShift or in Cloud Pak for Data. So we have a DB2 cartridge, which gets deployed in those two environments. It is exactly identical to the DB2 that you install on bare metal. The only difference is that within a container, there are these operators. These are these things that we do for you. So when you think about the OpenShift environment, OpenShift already has built-in disaster recovery. So if it detects that the pod that's running DB2 has gone down, it will redeploy a new one. It will do that work for you. Whereas in the past, you would have had to done something in your bare metal server, right? You would have had a failover. You might have used HADR just for that purpose. So there's a lot of great features and functions that come with the OpenShift and the Cloud Pak for Data environment that you no longer have to worry about some of these things. Plus, you can deploy these things on any cloud you want, or you can run it internally in your own data center. It doesn't matter. So you still have lots of options of where you deploy DB2. But getting to that environment requires you to do a couple of things. First of all, for many customers, they say, well, yes, I'm going to start running in containers, but I'm going to create my new application so they run over there. Okay, well, that's fine. But for many of you, you may have these systems already running on some VMware or native system, and you may say, look, I really do want to containerize those things. How do I get there, right? So the first thing you need to look at is what type of app are you moving? Okay, and we make this arbitrary, you know, tiers, right? 3, 2, and 1. One is the ones where you have a very high performance, lots of resources, very specialized tuning type of systems, multi-terabytes. Those probably aren't the first ones that you're going to move into an OpenShift or Cloud Pak for Data environment. In fact, you may never do it because you want to be able to heavily tune and, you know, contain this database. The ones in the middle, those are your OLTP apps that, you know, probably maybe multi-terabytes, you know, decision support systems, things that perhaps don't have as critical response time requirements as the ones in tier 1. And in fact, these are probably closely tied to many of the servers that we see people running. We see a lot of tier 1 apps and things like AIX, you know, power servers. We do see a lot of these in Linux as well. But the lower tiers, you know, they're spread across a variety of systems. But most of the tier 3 and tier 2 applications are the ones you probably want to start working with in terms of containerization. Doesn't mean you can't do 100 terabyte systems in tier 1 on OpenShift or Cloud Pak for Data. It's just that as people start to learn the environment, they will see that there are probably different performance characteristics, right? Different file systems you could be using in OpenShift. You may want to use NFS storage, local host paths. You have Ceph storage, Portworx. You have all sorts of different things that become your new things to consider, right, when you move into that environment. Okay, so we want to move your existing database. We don't want to export. We don't want to unload, reload. We don't want to do a backup restore. So this is what Click-2-Containerize does for you. It takes your on-premise database, which is running on Linux. It then looks at all the contents of that particular database and goes through a process of shifting that information into a container. So remember, we are keeping everything intact. So if your system has encryption, compression, whether it's DPF, single node, SMP, Oracle compatibility, doesn't matter. We take the objects that are on your on-premise system and we inject them into a container. We never expose your data. So think about that for a second. You didn't have to go through all the pain of doing an export, an import, right? Unload, reload. We've just moved the contents directly. So it's an extremely fast operation, and we handle all of that movement and all of that rearrangement in a container. And at the same time, as a bonus feature, we'll also do an upgrade. So if you're running on 10.5 or 11.1 or 11.5, when we do that movement, we'll detect that you're an earlier release of DB2 and automatically upgrade you at the same time. So just to think about all the times that you've had to go through one of these upgrade processes, the amount of planning, the work, the extra servers, the things you had to do. Now you can do it with basically a single step with Click-2-Containerize. So here's what it works on before I show you a demo. Currently, we're targeting Linux systems. So that's CentOS, Redhat, Ubuntu. We're testing SUSE as we speak. We can do it on P-Linux. We're testing. Okay, we haven't said we're supporting it yet, but we're testing P-Linux to P-Linux OpenShift, and we're also testing very weird combination, but AIX to Z-Linux OpenShift. Okay, from a security perspective, we need to have access to the instance for moving the stuff, and also we have to have access to the Cloud Pak for Data or OpenShift environment, either through a user ID and password or through tokens. And then the target systems can be Redhat OpenShift 3.1.1 or any version of 4, and for Cloud Pak for Data is version 3 and above. So what do we move? Well, we support 10.5, 11.1, 11.5. We always recommend you to be at the latest fix pack, and that's true for any upgrade, right? We support SMP, MPP, columnar tables, any code page. Okay, this is different than if you create a cartridge on OpenShift or Cloud Pak for Data. That's usually Unicode, right? But here we don't care. We'll actually move your entire database as is. We support encryption, compression, federation, Oracle compatibility, HADR, all the different topologies. The only restriction we have is you need to be using automatic storage. Okay, we can't support, direct container creation. We also support what we call the unified console on Cloud Pak for Data. We also will move your UDFs and procedures as long as they're located in your SQLib directory. We don't currently support spatial or the text extender, but we are looking at supporting that in the future. Now, from a DB2 perspective, I already mentioned SMP, MPP, 2 restrictions there. We don't support PureScale yet, and we don't support you changing the topology of an MPP system. So for instance, if you had 4 members running on MPP, it'll have to be 4 members sitting inside OpenShift or in Cloud Pak for Data. If you wanted to change the actual, topology, you're going to have to do that as a regular kind of migration. Okay, we can't do that as part of this tooling. So what does a tool do? Well, the tool itself runs as a GUI on Mac, Windows, or Linux. Looks the same on all 3. It is not, when you install it, it's basically a file. It doesn't need any drivers. Everything is self-contained. So think of it like a Mac app where everything is included in a bundle, right? But fear not, for those of you who like command line, we include a command line version of it with 40 or 50 different options, but it'll do exactly the same thing. What we do as part of this process is you first register your database, just typical, I want to connect to a database, so all the information you need for that. Then we assess the database, and we give you feedback in terms of what parameters you may need to change if you're moving into a containerized environment. So it gives you an opportunity to change them on the fly, but we highlight them to you. Once we've done that, you go to the containerization step, which generates a script, and that script is then run on the instance that you're going to move the database. So that's why the GUI tool can run anywhere, but the script itself needs to run in the machine or the instance owner of that machine. So the nice thing is the script we generate, you can fully audit it. We run everything in parallel. You can run up to 12 simultaneously threads of moving the data. It's repeatable, and we give you lots of options of how to move the database. The database can be stopped, suspended. We can use a split mirror, and we can even use what we call incremental shifting, so that we do changed pages. Every time you run it, we'll just keep incrementally getting closer and closer to the time that both systems are almost in sync, and then you do a final shift. So lots of options there for how to use this tool. We go through about 568 different settings to figure out how well will your database move. So at this point, let me show you this thing in action so you kind of get a sense for what you need to do as a DBA to make this work.
George?
So what I've got, yep.
I got a question here on the queue for you. Can an on-premise SUSE be moved to a Red Hat OpenShift environment?
Well, because we're moving only the database objects, it really doesn't matter that I'm running SUSE under the covers, right? I'm just looking at the database contents.
Okay.
So from that point of view, it doesn't matter.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so what I've done now is I'm showing you the screen to a Cloud Pak for Data system. So if none of you have seen this before, this is kind of the main console when you come into Cloud Pak for Data. And there's lots of stuff we could show you here, data virtualization, being able to, set up security for your users, making sure that you mask your data, things like that. But we're gonna start really simply here and just look at databases. And I've created 3 databases in here, and it's very much, oh, look at there's Martin is awesome. I've created a database for you, Martin. So to create these things, it's pretty simple. It's point and click, right? So you create a database, you go in, you select how big it is, how many cores, whether it's MPP, SMP. It's 3 screens, and it creates it for you. Okay, so what I've done is I've created an empty database called stocks. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the definition of this thing. And what I need to know to shift into this empty database is this thing called a deployment ID. And this is used in OpenShift or Kubernetes. It's basically an identifier for the instance or the pod that's running DB2. And you see that the only thing I need to know from this is these last four digits, the 0505. The second thing we all need to know as DBAs is what are the ports, right, that we're exposing to the database. And the one I'm going to look at here is 30078. So that's my database. If I look at the contents of it, it's empty right now. This is an empty shell. So that's basically what I need to do as a DBA, create an empty shell that I'm going to move into. So if we do an explore, and by the way, this is Data Management Console running on Cloud Pak for Data. So here we can see it's an empty system. So there's nothing here. So I'm going to just go out of this now, go back to my mains page. And what I'm going to do next is go and show you a working system that's running on a Linux system. It's DB2 11.5. Okay, so let me just bring this up. And what we have is an application that's running. So this is a dashboarding app. It's running against some stock data. Let me tell you up front, this is fake data. Somebody got really excited because they saw their stock had gone up in value, but this is from last year, okay? So don't call your broker based on what you see on this screen. So the database is about 0.5 gig in size. It's not very big, but we're running this app continuously. So I want to be able to move this database into Cloud Pak for Data or OpenShift. Doesn't matter which one, it's the same process. So what we've done is we've created this app called Click-2-Containerize. There's only really 2 things I need to do. There's lots of really cool things it does, but the first thing we need to do is create a connection to the database that's running in the background here. So I'm going to call it Martin. Sorry, Martin. The name of my database here happens to be called BlueDB, for lack of a good name. And you put all the typical stuff in, right? Port number, it says SSL, what's the user ID, and I say register. So what we do is we connect to the database and immediately give you a scoreboard of things that you may want to look at. And you can see we've kind of analyzed all of your instance, database, environmental parameters. You can get stuff like how many cores am I running on, the amount of memory. The only ones I care about are in red. And in here, you'll see there are some settings. And in fact, we give you feedback on each one of these. And most of these you could care less about. But here's one you may care about. You say instance memory. My reference value, this is my default container size, is only 800,000 pages of instant memory, where the current system I'm running on has got 3.5 million. So that might be a problem. So the good news is we can click on this and say, I want to override that value when we move into the container. So this is something you'll look at on your individual databases. So let me just exit from this. So let's go to the interesting thing, which is let's containerize this. So we go to containerize. And we say, first of all, let's go pick our database that we've got here. We're now going to go to my OpenShift server, or Cloud Pak for Data server. So what I need to do is give it the host address, and I'm running on a SkyTap system, so I have these 10. I have to give it the same details. And remember that page I looked at gave me details on the port number, et cetera. Well, I'm not going to type those in. We have a feature in here that says, get all the information from the pod. The pod is the container name, that big long thing, right? It has all the details in there. So all I need to do down here is put in a couple digits that I can find this container. So I'm going to use 0505, oops, too many. And I'm going to say create script. So we're now going to talk to the Cloud Pak for Data system. See, we found that ugly looking name. We know the port. And we've now generated the script required to move this database into Cloud Pak for Data. So I can see the command. So for those of you who like using command line versions, there it is. And the nice thing is you can use this to do batch movements, right? So I'm going to just cancel out. It'll tell me how to do all the steps. I'm going to say, I'll forget that. I know what I'm doing, maybe. So let's go to the step that says click to containerize. So now on my system, I have this script that's been created, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next. So first of all, I want to make sure I log into my OpenShift cluster. So either through a user ID and password or through a token. Now I have to do something with DB2. For our example, I'm going to just suspend the server. Okay, so that means it's still in read-only mode. So you'll notice my application back here, which is irritating. It's still running because it's in read-only, right? So I can't insert or update. I'm not going to say begin shift. We are now taking components of my local database on Linux, and we're going to wrap up all the different pieces of DB2 that I need and start doing something called an rsync into Cloud Pak for Data. So what you're seeing now is me moving the physical database objects up to Cloud Pak for Data. So as we speak, you can see what's all moving over. The speed of this is dependent, of course, on your network. So we know the theoretical speed is about 5 terabytes an hour if you've got a 10 gig network, right? We run this in parallel. By the way, the data's just moved. It's done. We've just moved half a gigabyte of data, right? So my data is now up in Cloud Pak for Data. Okay, so anyways, you can move about 5 terabytes per hour, but that completely saturates your network, right? So you may want to adjust that depending, and you can do that through these commands. Now, before I go and show you the data, I've got to do one extra step. We use LDAP for security and authentication, both on OpenShift and on Cloud Pak for Data. So this may be new for some of you. So if you're using local OS-based authentication, that no longer works in these containerized environments. So what we do here is we have to do a linkage between my database and the security that's running on Cloud Pak for Data. So what we're doing now is we're injecting some, basically some control information, and we're also adding a bunch of tables that are used by the built-in data management console on OpenShift to manage this database. So we do that for you. So we're injecting a bunch of scripts into it. This almost takes more time than the actual database move, but in any case, a couple things about the database move. I showed you doing a suspend. I could resume now, by the way. I don't have to keep it in suspended mode. I could do this with split mirror. I could do this with incremental shifts. That means you can say, let's shift now, and then tomorrow do another shift, and we'll only do change pages and move them over, right? So there's lots of options for how you move the database. Okay, you can see my LDAP's done, right? So I'm going to resume my database. Let's go back to Cloud Pak. Here's my stocks. Let's open the database. And you'll see it comes up with some metrics. Let's go and see my tables. And you'll see in a second, there's my trading database. There's my stock transaction table. It's got 600,000 rows in it. Let's view the data. And as you can see, I've already moved the entire database is now available to me on Cloud Pak for Data. So now I can use other tools on there, right? In terms of granting other users access on Cloud Pak for Data, doing analytics, doing reporting, doing whatever I need to do in the Cloud Pak for Data environment. Now the data's up there. We've got our little app running. So what I'm going to do is show you. Here's the app. It's in a notebook. I'm going to stop it. And what I'm going to do is go back here, and I'm now going to connect the Cloud Pak for Data. And now I'm using a completely different user ID. I'm using my admin that I'm running up on Cloud Pak. It's connected to that server through LDAP. And now you can see that my application is now once again running, but now I'm pointing to Cloud Pak for Data. And like I said, this can be just as easily done with an OpenShift environment. So we've now given you the opportunity to move your entire database landscape from an on-premise servers into this environment. So it gives you a couple of great features. First of all, if you want to do QA and test, what easier way is it for giving people access to these servers by quickly deploying one of them and then just doing a shift of the database? And they've got it now, a complete image of it, and they can use that, right? Rather than you getting another server and standing it up and deploying DB2 and all the other stuff that you need to do. Use this as a way of getting people testing QA systems. Secondly, you do want to modernize your app and you want to consolidate them and take advantage of the containerized environment. So you may be able to more efficiently use your hardware. And thirdly, you want to upgrade, right? You're on 10.5 already and you're going like, oh, it's going to take a lot of work. Why not use this tool to see if you have any hiccups on the way over to 10.5, right? Test it on OpenShift or on Cloud Pak for Data. So this tool gives you lots of neat opportunities to modernize your applications. And we're opening this tool up now. It's already in tech preview, and we'll give you a link to that so that you can go and download it, try it, and see what you think. The tool will be officially supported as a DB2 component through tooling at the next DB2 major release level. So in the meantime, it's available in tech preview and gives you an opportunity, like I said, to try this thing out, to see how easy it is to modernize your apps and get into this containerized environment. So here's a link down at the bottom, you'll see, and we'll also supply the slides, Martin, so you can get the link from there, but it's basically ibm.biz/click-to-container. All right, remember, it's not migration. We never expose your data. There's no backup, restore, import, export, whatever, no reconfiguration. In fact, anything you may have done in a primary database in terms of optimizations that you may have done, all those settings move over, right? Everything is handled securely through this environment where there's never a copy of your database sitting around. It's always a direct movement from your on-premise to your containerized environment, whether it's Cloud Pak for Data or OpenShift. So hopefully that's given you a sense of what we're trying to do here. We really do want to help you get into this containerized world and get all the benefits of running DB2 in a containerized environment. So with that, Martin, do you have another advertisement that you want to do, or should we go into our deployment options pitch?
Deployment options, but I got a couple of questions here for you, though.
Sure, great.
Can we move DB2 databases from Windows and Solaris systems?
You have to use a different tool for that. And the reason is,
okay,
Windows has a different directory structure. So, and there are some things that we need to do on Windows to get it into Linux. So we have the same team that is producing Click-to-Containerize also has the tool that will help you take that into a Linux containerized environment. But that is an actual export and import. So it's not a direct container to container type of movement. Solaris is another interesting one. We've not done any work with Solaris, so I can't tell you right now if that's possible. But I believe Solaris is a big Indian system, which means that the only option I have there is probably into a Z-Linux OpenShift container. Because as you know, a backup from Solaris will go to HP or AIX because they're all big Indian systems.
Right.
So for all of those, it's going to have to be a migration. Basically import export to go directly to Linux, or you can go into the Z-Linux OpenShift. But unfortunately, the big Indian, little Indian still requires a basically unload and import.
Okay. Another question, is the database moved row by row or page by page or something else?
It's the movement is always container by container. Okay. So that means whatever physical file objects exist, we move them. And so we parallelize the moves. So if you have multiple containers, multiple MPP, they're all moved in parallel. So it's a very, very fast process. But yeah, we never touch rows, we never touch pages. It's always the physical object that gets moved. Okay, and that also means that we don't decrypt, right? You know, because if you're doing row or page level, you may end up having to do decryption, but we don't do that. Everything, including the key store and everything, gets moved over.
Okay. And the last question here is one of these things that really it's, well, let me come out and say the message that somebody's getting, sorry, my screen just flipped on me. I had everything under control. When doing shift to create it's still doing it, my goodness. I wish I could make this just a little, like a lot bigger. Give me, Now I got to find the edge of the window and see if I can drag it to the side, and it's not letting me. It seems to be there's an export restriction, I guess is about the nicest way to say it.
An export.
They're getting one of these things. You're one person here is getting a thing saying the product offering is subject to strict U.S. export control laws. Your request is being reviewed.
Okay, it's interesting.
That's I can follow up and perhaps pass that name on, or you will have that from me because that'll be in the attendee log. And
yeah, we can take a look at it from the offering management team, so we figure out what's happening. But yeah, happy to
also, does this mean just a couple of other things here? Maybe rather than getting into that ugly one, does this mean the database must be write suspended during migration?
No, that's a very good question. It does not have to be write suspended.
Okay.
So your options are, so write suspend is one of them. Stop it, which is probably the least available format. Or we can do a shift while the database is running.
Okay.
So what happens is when you do that mode, or split mirror is the other one. But if you do that mode, what will happen is a shift obviously will move the pages as they are at that moment, right?
Right.
So you cannot, at the end of that step, reinitialize that database. So what we would do is we would run to the end of the shift, then you go back and say shift again, and then we pick up changed pages that may have occurred. And so you keep that process up until there's some point in time or some, maintenance window where it will finalize any of the files that were still updated since the last pass, right?
Okay.
And in that point, then you do your final shift. So the shift command actually has options to do that. So anyways, that's what we would recommend if it's a very large system. But as you can see, if it's like under a terabyte, you're gonna be done in half an hour, right? So if you can find a maintenance window to shift the thing, right?
Yeah.
We also have options, by the way, for HADR connections, which means that if you shift from a primary, you can shift it into our OpenShift or CP4D system, and then we have a script that can link the two so that what will happen is as the primary makes changes, the secondary will keep up, and then you can just keep them up to date until one point in time you finally do the cutover, right?
Okay. Couple of they've got a lot of questions here. Can we use this tool for DB2 for System I or to move data from System I?
Yeah, unfortunately, no. It's the same thing. We have to export and import to use.
Yeah, that's actually that's EBCDIC versus ASCII. The System I's are mainframe kind of. All of our databases are AIX. Last I heard, this technology will be available at some to be determined point. When will the AIX version be available?
You mean AIX? Okay.
I guess we're back to little endian, big endian things, aren't we?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So native AIX can be shifted. This is not my lawyers have said anything I say will be used against me. So this isn't a promise of delivery, but we are prototyping, right?
Yeah.
Shifting AIX, but right now we can only do it into a Z Linux OpenShift.
Okay.
Because they're both big endian.
Sure.
So unless I have what I call an OpenShift AIX native, I'm not going to be able to do it. Right? Okay.
All right. Thanks. All right. We'll leave the questions there for now, and we will turn things back to you to continue on. And no, I only had the one commercial.
Okay.
We don't.
All right. So let's
try not to be too big on the commercials, although we do, as I said before, we appreciate being able to pay the bills. But,
yeah. Right. All right, let me pass it over to Vin, who's going to talk about deployment options. So Vin, you on?
I am.
There you go. Yep, great.
Are we, oh, you're sharing the direct, that's fine. Okay. Yep. 1 second. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Vin. I'm the offering manager for DB2 on cloud services. And before I get into that, I mean, it's important to kind of put a perspective in place of comparing the DB2 deployment options. Now, luckily, we have various deployment options, which pretty much fits every kind of deployment method that exists today in the technology world, from on-prem to containerized or DB2 Cloud Pak for data to a fully managed SaaS solution. Now, what I'm trying to do in this slide is to be able to explain and have my best efforts to convey the information that each of these deployment options kind of have different degrees of efforts, advantages, and value. And you have to pick and choose, or you may already have requirements and you may find whatever fits best for you. So going from left to right, in terms of cost of administration to time of deployment and things like that, classic on-prem environments have been comparatively time-consuming and takes longer for the setup and then the ongoing administration. And it's obvious because the team that exists in the client, they have to manage the complete environment from getting the hardware till the operations, and then also they have to manage and make sure that they are able to configure HADR kind of features that meet your own SLAs. So it's the most time-consuming kind of approach for deployment, but that's what has been existed today up till today so far. The next approach is the hybrid containers, which Tanmay covered today, and then George showed us the demo, which is that you want to move from a traditional on-prem and technology-wise kind of a VM or bare metal setup to a more containerized setup. Now, that brings in a lot of advantage in terms of how the administration of containers themselves are managed on a platform like OpenShift or Cloud Pak for data. For example, what Tanmay mentioned is like the App Store. So how you install something, how you update something, and then in the future, how the whole life cycle of that could be managed becomes very easy. So in terms of cost of administration, time to deploy, it's comparatively much better than the classic on-prem approach. And it does give advantages of scalability, which is that if you want more power, you can scale the containers, like deploy more containers with similar configuration, which is pretty quick compared to a traditional on-prem approach. And then the last one is of freedom to configure, which I put in there because that kind of pops up a lot of times, that in the both classic on-prem and the container approach, since you will be managing your own environments, even though if the effort is less and it's more smoother, but you will be managing your own environment. And for that reason, you have full freedom of configurability of your database environment. When we look at the SaaS offering, it provides the advantages of getting getting onto the database very, very quickly. So I'm going to show a demo today where you can instantiate and set up a DB2 on cloud system in almost 2 to 3 minutes. And that's where the value comes in, that if you want to start quickly and you want to reduce your cost of administration, and it might be because you either don't have the skills for that, or you have decided that you want to not invest time and money in managing the platform, but you instead want to focus more on developing the apps with it, and so on and so forth. In that kind of situation, a SaaS solution would be very beneficial. Also, for scalability, the elasticity that the DB2 Cloud SaaS solution provides is pretty great. You can scale up just by scrambling a scalability knob from left to the right and tell us that you want these many vCPUs or this much storage, and you can scale within a couple of minutes. So it makes that kind of approach very, very easy. The only I would say, compromise would be that since we, the IBM DB2 team, is managing the system and making sure that it meets the SLA commitments, we do not give access to the actual DB2 server. So you can work with us if you want to implement any specific configuration in terms of security, in terms of optimization. You can definitely work with us, and we can help you implement those as per your needs, but you do not have your own access to that environment. So these are the 3 deployment options, and like I said, DB2 is supported on all of them, so it totally depends on your requirement and your kind of use cases. Where I have seen a fully managed SaaS solution kind of outshine is initially in industries, what I've come across, that if there's a new project that is starting out and the customer is evaluating the feasibility, let's say for the project itself, then DB2 on cloud becomes a great option, because the team can spin up a machine, do their app building with it, try it out, and then they only have to pay for what they use. So our pricing is based on per hour, so that helps them control their budgets and costs very easily. Also, I have customers who have gone with full enterprise level implementation and have been with us for many years using DB2 on cloud solution for their enterprise use cases as well. So it's a wide range of use cases and solution. It depends on what best fits your requirement. Next slide. So now we dig deeper into the DB2 cloud portfolio. So there are 2 solutions that are available as a fully managed SaaS service. We have DB2 on cloud, which is the OLTP product, and then there's a DB2 warehouse on the cloud, which is a OLAP product. And both support different use cases as per their configurations, and the customers can choose either or based on their use cases. Next slide. So we are very proud at IBM about our achievements with the SaaS portfolio. So for DB2 product, we were positioned as the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for cloud database management systems. So that took a lot of effort and years of building, but we finally achieved it, and we were proud of it. And we're very proud that we can offer such a good offering to our customers who can take advantage of this as well. One of the key important things that any cloud product has to ensure is a good experience. And what I mean by that is that when the user wants to try that product in SaaS, they have to have a very intuitive experience that what to do and how to do it and how to achieve their tasks and objectives using the SaaS solution. So we have invested a lot in our console, and we are using similar consoles throughout our portfolio. So what George showed you with the Cloud Pak for Data, you would get very similar experience of UI with the Cloud Pak, with the DB2 on Cloud service as well. And in fact, we won a Redhat design award for that interface, where there were like 7,000 entries from different products. And then the third is that DB2 was obviously positioned as the Peer Insights Customer Choice Award winner, and that was all because of you, all the audience, that you provided that those reviews and feedback on the Gartner website, which made us successful and outshine all the competitors, becoming the Customer Choice Award winner. Next slide. So in this session, the key takeaway I want to make sure that all of you have for the DB2 on Cloud product are these 6 key capabilities and differentiators. So number 1, that the offering is fully managed SaaS. So it is not a hosted offering. It is not that we install and then just let you run it and then you have challenges managing it. It's a fully managed SaaS with 4 nines SLA commitment when you deploy it in high availability configuration. And our team makes sure that those 4 9 SLAs are met throughout and throughout. On-demand scaling. So if you look at today's requirements in the market, scalability is one of the key factors where you want to scale as per your requirement. You want to start small and then grow bigger as either the project becomes bigger or your requirements for SaaS becomes bigger. What we have also ensured in the elasticity and scalability is that you can scale the storage and the compute independently of each other. So based on your requirement, if it's for storage or for compute, you can scale up. And like I was mentioning, the scaling is completely based on just a scroll bar, and you can just scroll that to the right, and it starts the environment for scalability. High availability and reliability is based on our DevOps team and also based on our architecture. So I do want to highlight that what we are preaching or sharing here in terms of Cloud Pak for data and containers, we have self-adopted it. So the DB2 Cloud solution, the managed SaaS solution, is itself running and using the Kubernetes architecture and containers architecture for providing this fast deployment, easy scalability, and high availability and redundancy in our environments as well. So we have already adopted that. We see that making our lives very much easier and allowing us to provide a better service to our customers. So that provides high availability and reliability. I will not go into performance and security because essentially it's the same DB2 engine. So whatever performance you see or whatever knobs that we like to kind of tinker with to optimize performance, you have those in the SaaS offering as well. The important one is all-in pricing. So why I want to share that is because if you go to other cloud vendors and check out their services, there are a lot of hidden charges that you only get to know at the end of the billing cycle. And also, a lot of solutions that are out there kind of just position their scalability in terms of hey, if you need more resources or if you have more workload, just scale out and you just pay at the end. But our approach is a little different. We are more transparent in the sense that you can do a pay-go model or you can do a subscription model, but what you're going to pay for your project based on the hours that you use the service is pretty much transparent and kind of gets to the dot of what was estimated. So not a lot here and there, but pretty much very close to estimate or in fact accurate as the estimate itself. And then finally, the rich developer ecosystem, where we've been pushing a lot of efforts in bringing out the latest drivers, supporting the latest drivers, bringing out new IDEs, and also ensuring that we have hooks in our SaaS service that allows you to easily integrate with a data science tool like Jupyter Notebooks or Watson Studio, analytics tools like Cognos and so on for your broader use cases. So these are the 6 key capabilities that I want to make sure that you guys kind of have a takeaway on. Next slide. I'm gonna skip this slide because it pretty much talks about the core technology aspects. The only thing that kind of outshines here is that our SLA is 4 nines when deployed in a HA configuration, and our support is award-winning and available 24/7, 365 days, pretty much. We're very proud of the support because the support team has been helping the customers be successful and resolve their issues. So these are available with the SaaS service. Next slide. So when you go and try to choose a plan, or when you even think about making an investment in the DB2 cloud service, you would be looking at 3 different models of trying out the service or using the service. We have a free or completely freemium model where you can go and use the service for as long as you want. Obviously, the size of that environment is limited and restricted. So you can try it out, and it's best and good for kind of getting your hands wet, trying to do a dev kind of a scenario where you just want to try it out, where you want to run some queries, see how to connect to the environment and so on and so forth, and you will not be paying anything. It's a completely free offering for as much time as you want. and it's available today. The two paid plans are Standard and Enterprise, and they are obviously reflective in their price points. The Standard is a more economical approach for growing enterprise needs, where you are in a multi-tenant environment. However, you are isolated because it's based on containers. You are isolated with your own compute and your storage. The environment is limited to 16 vCPUs in expansion, but supports up to 4 terabytes of storage. And then there's the enterprise plan, which is more dedicated compute and storage for ensuring that you have consistent performance throughout your experience with DB2 on cloud service. And it goes up to 56 vCPUs of compute with 4 terabytes of storage. Now, we are going to expand that 4 terabyte storage limit to 26 terabyte storage limit by end of this year. So the customers who are having more storage requirements will be able to come and get on board with us. Next slide. Some of the key differences in terms of RACI and RACI as in the responsibilities of what IBM will do versus what customer has to do. I wanted to highlight that because this question comes up a lot of times in terms of explaining the customers that where do they have to help out or have to manage versus where IBM team will kind of take care of everything. So we've already gone through the configuration setup, but just to reiterate, if you are looking for a single node configuration or a HADR with single node for DB2 on cloud, you have those available in the DB2 on cloud service. But if you're looking for an SMP or MP architecture, you have that available through DB2 warehouse on cloud service. The price that I discussed with you and I was talking about in our case includes, just like any other SaaS service, the software, the hardware, the management or the DevOps for it, and the support for it. Whereas if you compare it with the DB2 on-premise software, it's just the software and the support. The deployment is a few clicks of deployment, whereas in on-prem you have to set it up yourself. And then security and compliance in SaaS is offered by us. So that also takes a big headache off your shelf, where we kind of make sure that we are compliant with the most prominent requirements in terms of security. Whereas in on-prem, you would have to do it yourself. Or in any self-managed environment, you would have to do it yourself. Next slide. Next, in terms of software update and patching, it's done by IBM. For SaaS, database health monitoring and alerting, it's done by IBM. The web console, you can have the DMC in on-prem, which is like you have to set it up, but it is easy to set up now. However, you get that out of the box with the DB2 on cloud service. Database workload monitoring, that is managed by the customer via the DB2 monitoring functions that are available in the web console. Performance tuning, so out of the box, we give you the environment, we follow the best practices, but you have to obviously come in and tune your performance based on your specific data sets, use cases, and so on. And then DB2 settings, like I was mentioning, are managed by IBM because we have the access to the server. However, if there are any specific configurations that you want to implement, you can obviously work with us and we can make sure that those configurations are affected and implemented in your specific DB2 on cloud environments. Next slide. Let's talk about backup and restore. So for backup and restore, today in DB2 on cloud, we take a backup daily, and that is managed by us. So the backup is taken as well as stored by us for you. And you can choose the restore process with any point in time backup that we have. Now that's the out-of-the-box backup that is included. You can have high availability, which spans across 3 different nodes. So you have 3 nodes mirroring each other for high availability. And then for even more redundancy, you can have a disaster recovery node in a separate geo sitting and replicating the logs as well. So you have 3 levels of kind of redundancy available with DB2 on Cloud. Is scaling, I already covered that we support scaling. Database connectivity to DB2 on Cloud will be through JDBC, ODBC, and the drivers that are supported by DB2. Server access kind of goes into that the customer does not have server access, only the IBM team has. And then there are some debugging and things like that where you can get into the debugging and diagnostics using the IBM Cloud Log DNA product. So it kind of hooks into DB2 on Cloud, and then you can start seeing the logs and so on and so forth. Next slide. Okay, so that kind of covers the DB2 on Cloud part. I'm going to go into demo now. So let me just see. How do I take the control of the screen?
Let's see if I can say change presenter.
Mm-hmm.
And are you second George on here?
Oh, I think so because I used your link.
There you go. Are you in?
Yes.
I don't know if you can change the presenter, but I'm happy to make whichever George you want to be the presenter. I think that's probably this one here. Oh no, that's actually you are the presenter.
I am, yeah.
Okay, because we've got George B as panelist. Yeah, you should be.
Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So I think I have to quit and then come back. Do we have time for that? Because it's saying I don't have permissions.
Oh, it's permission on your end, I guess.
Yeah, so he won't be able to unless he shuts down, so won't be able to, I don't think.
Oh boy. Well, we're getting near the end of the day too. It's we're an hour and 20 minutes into our time slot here. I know that the people on the East Coast are probably starting to get hungry.
How about this, George? Do you have IBM Cloud access?
No.
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 Okay. Let me just see.
You're not seeing my screen right now, are you, Martin?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
I can put your screen back on if you like.
No, I don't know if I have access, but let me just see.
All right.
Yeah.
I think Vin is dialing back in, so maybe he'll be able to share.
And our question queue is free at this point. So Tanmay is back.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vin is back. Let me do my screen share now, maybe. Can you make me the presenter?
I can certainly do that. Is this you? If you got a message on your screen, I did the right one.
No, that's not me.
All right, let me try this one.
No, that's Tanmay.
All right.
I think I'm George second because I used his link to join in.
Okay. Try this one.
Yes.
All right, good. All right.
Can you see my screen?
I can. It says dashboard.
Awesome.
Yep.
So it is a dashboard. It is essentially the first time I log into IBM Cloud, that's what you're seeing. This is the console for IBM Cloud. It kind of gives you the things that you can do, and then what is the status of my account on IBM Cloud. So what I'm going to show you is how to deploy DB2 on Cloud, and it's pretty simple. You log into IBM Cloud. The easiest way to get to DB2 is you just search for it in the search panel, and it would show you, okay, you have 3 results you have DB2, DB2 warehouse, and then SQL query, because SQL query is a similar product than DB2. So that's why it's showing up here. And I already had a DB2 demo instance running from before. So it's showing up that, hey, you also have a DB2 system running in your services. What I want to do is select this DB2 from catalog results, because that's where it will allow me to provision the service. Kind of go into the provisioning page. This is where I select the location where I want to deploy my service. So these are the places where I can deploy my service. I'm just going to select North America and Dallas. I select the plan. If you are trying to try the free plan, then that's the light plan, where you have 200 MBs of free storage and then some other restrictions, but it's completely free. And then you have standard enterprise plan. I select the light plan. I give my service a name if I want to, otherwise it already pre-fills that. And then the only thing I need to do is kind of click create. So if I have a light plan already, so it's saying that I need to delete that. But let me just show you, for example, if I want to provision the standard one, the same thing, the location and everything, and just click create. And it will take a few seconds and then show me, this is the resource list where it kind of shows all the services. So if you see here, this is the instance that I was provisioning right now, currently is being provisioned and it's in progress. And it only takes a couple of minutes to kind of get active. So maybe if I refresh this, account is locked. So this one was the old instance that I had, and if I don't do any activity for a certain time, then it kind of locks my account. That's fine. Go in the resource list again. But this is kind of the idea. I don't want to hold on to everyone's time here. Essentially, if you saw, it just like takes 3 clicks to get to provisioning a DB2 system here in IBM Cloud, and probably takes like a few minutes to get the system up and running. And once it's up and running, you can just go into the console and check it out. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. Let me bring up the presentation again.
Yeah, we're getting really overtime here. We're at the hour-and-a-half mark.
Mm-hmm.
Just to warn you.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of completes the demo. And then I wanted to make sure that there are a couple of more webinars coming up. There is the DB2 and Pacemaker deep dive. If you guys want to sign up for that and are interested in that. The DB2 warehouse on cloud product, we are releasing a new feature for replication for addressing continuous availability use cases. So there's a deep dive webinar for that as well. And then how to use different types of storages with DB2, including in the container environment. That's on March 25th. So it's totally up to the folks, so based on their interest of what they want to join in. I think the next slide is just a couple of resources, and that's it. So we'll send this deck out to you, and you can share it with all the end users.
Great.
Right.
The last question, it's kind of an important one. Do you get the sample database with the free DB2 on cloud?
I
guess
like
you
the
could just install. I guess you could just install DB2 sample and you'd have it anyway, because that's just a DB2 command. So
Yeah, I mean the Go sales database, is that what they'll be talking about?
Now the sample, when you do DB2I sample command, generates the employee department table. It's just like hello world in the DB2 world, right?
Pretty much, yeah. But I think anybody, I'm kind of answering your question for you, but DB2 sample is the standard thing that should be there.
Yeah.
And we'd all want to play with that, just as you say, hello world. What we used to call that on the mainframe was an installation verification program, or an IVP.
I thought that was IFBR 14.
No, that's something else. And by the way, if you want to workload all the time, some people have modified that to be an IFBR 15, so it just calls itself all the time. But I'm digressing. I think we should wrap it up. I've got your marvelous picture there. I will move on to just put up our ending screen, and we have one final thing to ask our audience, which we always like to do, which is, did you learn anything today? And we're getting the people to vote on that quickly. So we'll close that off and share it. And look at that. Everybody learned something. So
have you anybody ever say no?
We get some, there's people like, I can go through a great presentation and occasionally have somebody said, I guess I knew everything. And that's, It's really nice when they're able to do that, but I can tell you that it does happen, not a lot. We never have a show that's under 85 to 90%, but it depends on the people and depends on the audience and all that other type of stuff. But I'm going to cue the music here and put it down a little bit just to be able to say thanks, everybody. Remember your clocks this weekend if you're in North America. And thanks very much to Vin, Tanmay, and George, and Holly for setting everything up for us. And we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks for the next DB2 on Z show, and in about 4 weeks for the next DB2 LUW show. So once again, I'm Martin Hubel. Thanks for coming, and we will see you next time on the DB2 Night show. Bye-bye, all.